Hello. Do you enjoy interactive author discussions? Well, welcome to Story Behind the Story with Reese Ryan, where romance readers and authors connect. I'm Reese Ryan, author of sexy, emotional, grown folks romantic fiction, where characters in their 30s and up discover love while navigating career crisis and family drama. And today I'm very excited that my guest is author Katie Richards, who writes romantic thrillers. She writes the very popular West Investigation series. So we're going to talk a little bit about the series, about her latest release. We're going to talk about her process as a writer and how she kind of balances the need for romance and thrills, as well as we love to bust people's TBRs here. So we're also going to be both recommending some of our fave romantic thriller writers of color, especially because you don't see that as much. And we want to see a lot more of that in the marketplace. So we're going to be talking about that too. So thank you for joining us this evening. And if you are joining us from Facebook, don't forget that you need to go into the description at the bottom of Facebook to give Facebook permission or give StreamYard permission to see your Facebook profile and to see your Facebook photo as well, your avatar on Facebook. This is an interactive show, so if you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop those in the comment box. We'll get to them as time allows. So absolutely do that. And if you're new here, by all means, I invite you to subscribe to the channel so you'll know when the next show is coming up, like my show in 2 weeks on the 18th, where I'll be talking to romance legend Shirley Hailstock. So you'll find out about upcoming shows, and there's lots more on the menu coming up in May and June. So you definitely want to make sure that you subscribe to the show. Now, I was gonna go into the show, but there is something that I wanted to show you, and that is I just did I haven't even posted it yet. I just recorded a unboxing of my upcoming release, my April 25th release, Return to Hummingbird Way. Y'all, I have been waiting so long for this book to come out. It's been a long journey. Let me tell you, I finished this book so long ago. It's been a long journey. It's the second book in my Holly Grove Island series. Book one was Second Chance on Cypress Lane, and that was Dexter and Dakota's story. This one is Sinclair and Rhett's story, and in this story, we're planning Dexter and Dakota's wedding. It's tons of fun. And if you read the first book, you're gonna see lots of characters that are familiar, but you'll also get introduced to some new ones, like Rhett's meddling, matchmaking, amazing, badass 80-something-year-old grandma, Mama May. She is a trip. I love Mama May so much. So I am looking forward to y'all taking the journey back to Holly Grove Island on second. Oh, sorry. This is Second Chance on Cypress Lane. This one is Return to Hummingbird Way. So coming up later this month, just got the copies in a few days ago. Been so busy, I haven't had a chance to open them. So I just, like I said, take the unboxing today. So that's what's up with me. And now I am excited for us to get into talking to Katie Richards. So again, if y'all got questions, you got comments, drop them in the box. We'll get to them as we can, absolutely. But now I'm going to bring on our guest for today, Katie Richards. Hello, KD. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Hello.
I'm so glad to have you here because you already know I'm a big fan, and I'm like loving your stuff and always reading it. And so I'm so excited to get a chance to chat with you.
Thank you.
So first of all, for anybody who might not be familiar with you, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you write.
Yeah, so I write romantic suspense for the Intrigue line. I write the West Investigation series, and I came to it kind of circuitous. So I practiced law for 16 years, but always kind of secretly wanted to be a writer and wrote while I was practicing law. Just never showed it to anybody, and then when my husband got a job opportunity in his native Canada, we moved here, and I said, "Oh well, what the heck? I'll submit this book to Harlequin. Maybe something will come of it." And so that's how West Investigation series was born. Um, so that was great and a nice change for everyone.
Wow. And I say this often because it's so true, but it feels like there's so many writers who are former
Yeah,
lawyers.
yeah.
So,
No, I remember very distinctly being in high school and saying to my dad, I want to be a writer. I want to be an author. I want to write books. He was a big book person too. He was not a writer, but he loved books. So we always had books, and he kind of looked at me, but you need to support yourself. So maybe if you like writing, be a lawyer. Basically get a job and get out of my house. I'm not going to support you forever. So that's sort of how I came. Well, okay, well, right, you do a lot of writing, and he was correct. You do a lot of writing as a lawyer, not anywhere near like the same kind. But I think that maybe it's a lot of fathers are telling their daughters and sons to go be a lawyer. You need something to fall back on.
I know. Um, yes, I was gonna say, yeah. I was gonna say it's so funny that so many lawyers become
Yeah.
romance
There are a
writers.
bunch of
Yes,
there are a bunch of us.
yes,
Secretly, all lawyers secretly want to be filmmakers or writers or something else.
that is wild. I like it. That is wild. And
Yeah.
yes, so thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us, Veronica. Good
Hi,
evening to you,
Veronica.
as well as Dolores Lee. Thank you so much. So glad to have you here with us this evening. So yeah, so you told us how, and that was a phenomenal way for you to use that opportunity. Your husband got the opportunity to go back to home to
Yeah.
Canada. I love Canada so much. I miss Canada because when I
Yeah.
lived in Ohio, we used to drive there all the time, and now I'm in North Carolina, and we haven't been here since
A little
we've moved
far.
here. Yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
bit far. You can't just do that little quick 5 hour trip to
Yeah.
Toronto, or like it was like 2 or 3 hours to the
I'm about
falls.
an hour and 45 minutes from Buffalo, which is not, so I
Yeah, and
can just hop over.
we used to go to Buffalo every Thanksgiving. We would go
Yeah.
to Grand Isle, um, right outside, like off suburb, I guess, of Buffalo,
Yeah.
whatever. So yes, I do miss that. So great, you took that opportunity. Your husband got the job opportunity, and you did that. So,
Right.
um, you said you wanted to write as a kid, then. So
Yeah.
that's what made you want to get into writing fiction. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mentioned my dad. My mom's an English teacher. So that's, right there.
Perfect. Yeah,
We were
right there.
already reading a lot in our house just because of
Yeah.
that. And then my dad also loved books. He had a huge book collection. So we were a house full of readers in
I love it.
in our house. And then somewhere along the way I decided, well, I can do this. I can write a book too. Well, I started with short stories. The first one I wrote at age 11. I
Hmm.
wrote a short story. It was good. I mean, I still love that story. I wish I had. I don't know what I did with it because this was back in the day with pen and paper. So
Yeah, yeah. I
I
can't
didn't.
find. I don't know where any of my stuff is that I
Yeah,
wrote as a
I
kid
don't know what
either.
I did with it, but I wish I kept up with it because
Yeah.
well, at least in my head, it was good. When I see it, if I found it, I saw it again, I'd probably be like, "Whoa!" But
Oh my gosh.
the memory of it was good, but that's sort of how it started.
I love it. I love it. So, what drew you to writing romantic thrillers in particular?
So I've always loved thrillers. And then I always tell this story. My best friend is like, "You're gonna get me in so much trouble." We used to sneak into we didn't have to sneak into the library, but we had to sneak the romance, the Harlequin novels out of the library because we were too young to be in that section. And so we would sneak into the section and get the romance books. And everybody knows the two of us. They're like, they're gonna know I'm the one who was instigating it. But, so that's how I kind of got into romance, and then so I combined the two. Those are the two genres that I sort of liked the most, or was reading the most: the romance books and the thriller books, which I got on my own. I will admit to that one.
I love any stories like childhood stories about how the library was a big part of, you becoming a big reader or writer. I mean, because the library was huge for me. I mean, my friends and I, we would go to the library. We would check out as many books as we could, as we were allowed to. And in that 3 weeks, we read them all, and we were right back there getting our next stack. And I love that. And libraries can be such a huge part of, readers, how they get their books. And so I absolutely love our libraries and supported it 1,000%. There are readers I know who maybe can't afford to buy the books, but they recommend that their libraries get my books, and I appreciate them so much. So.
Yeah, I always recommend the library books. Even now they can afford books. I read so much. My whole salary can't go to books. So the library is a great resource for all types of things. I'm still in the library constantly. It was the library was a huge part of my life. It was because it was the one place my mom would let us walk to. So that was smart on her part, right?
Yeah.
You can go to the library. So we were able to go, have a little bit of freedom. So the library became the hangout place for kids in the neighborhood. And then when I was old enough, that was my first job. My first paying job was a library page, shelving books. So
nice.
Even now, I think I was in a library, 2 different libraries just today.
Oh wow! Yeah, that's so funny. Like I hadn't gone for a while because when we first moved here, the town we live in now, going on like we bought our house maybe 8 or 9, maybe 10 years ago, and but when we first moved here, their library was the dinkiest little like a corner store, size. The library, and so I was where I had moved from. I had such an amazing library, and so I hadn't really been going to the library for a while, and because I buy so many books anyway.
Right.
I got a TBR. I'll never get to all the books on my TBR anyway. So
I know. That's forever.
But recently, like in the last 3 years, or maybe right before the pandemic, they built a new library here. So and even through the pandemic, I had I wasn't going as much or whatever. And so just recently I've started going more, and they've got the new machines where you can literally just throw the book onto the shelf.
Right. And
it checks them out. And I'm like, a stack. You can throw a stack of 4 books and it just automatically checks.
We got those too.
I'm like, look, they got fancy.
Well, during the pandemic, I got a lot of the libraries let anyone get a virtual card and get this. So I got a lot of virtual cards. Some of them have pulled back, but a lot of them still allow you to check out. So that's great.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, and good evening to you as well, Read, Love, Listen. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello.
So, as writers, we all have our unique processes, for the creative process.
Standing on our head.
Yeah. So what's your writing process like, and what are some of the key elements of it?
Yeah, I mean, my writing process, I say processes because it really depends. The one thing that is consistent, I would say, is that I'm an outliner. I do outline.
Have you always been one?
Yeah. Well, I should say, since I seriously started writing, I think the law kind of feeds into that, needing a structure in order to get started. so that is pretty much that's pretty much consistent. But then once I get past the outlining stage, and sometimes that's even a little inconsistent, because sometimes every single thing that's going to happen in the book from the minute you sit down to the very end. And other times you're like, there's going to be an explosion and some people. I don't really know. Beyond that, so it's still even that process can be a little shaky depending on where I'm starting from. But then getting into the book, it's always like so different. The one I'm currently writing is the first time. It's one of the few times. I think I've done it one other time. I'm not writing it in a linear order. So I kind of know the big scenes and I'm writing those. And then between, I'm like, well, this has to come here and then this has to go and this has to go because that's the only logical way for that to work. And then in order to make that work, I need some other stuff in here. So, but it's like all over the place. It's chaotic, but it's working. So I'm just going with it.
That's so
But that's a newer. I've done something similar for one other book where I knew the beginning, I knew the end, but I had no idea what happened in the middle. So I just wrote those two things, and then I was like, well, how do I make this come together?
Yeah.
But other times it's, with Pursuit of the Truth, it was from the very beginning to the very end. I did the outline. I followed the outline. Nothing changed from the outline. It was just like, woo, and I wrote it in 6 months. Those characters knew what they wanted to do, knew who they were, and that was it. And then there are other characters who are like, yeah, I'm not going to work with you. So it just depends.
It's like that sometimes.
Yeah. And they're just like, nah, I'm not feeling you. So
you said you wrote it in 6 months. Is that like a typical time frame for you to write?
6 weeks. I wrote Pursuit of the Truth in 6 weeks.
Oh, 6 weeks.
Not
6 weeks. Okay. I was going to say, okay. Okay. I was going to say, okay.
Yeah. 6 weeks. Because that one just went bam, bam, bam. They just
great.
were so clear. I wish they were all like that.
Yeah.
But no, they're not. Usually it takes me like 8 weeks to get a first draft. So it's not terrible. And
that's really good. Good.
That's not terrible. And then I do have to go. My first drafts are pretty messy. Even with the outline, because I'll get to a point some days where I'm just like, write some stuff here. Like literally, I'll just put it in the in the manuscript because I'm like, I can't write this thing right now. But I know that I know what the next one's going to be. So I just like she does some stuff here and then she does some other stuff. And
that's smart.
And I'll come back to it in editing because sometimes you just don't have the energy
to
do it,
especially for certain kinds of scenes. If it's like highly emotional,
exactly.
Or for me, like a really intense love scene or whatever, I might just not be in the right headspace for that.
Exactly. That happens, quite a lot. You're feeling good, and it's hard to like write a scene where somebody's going to get killed if you're feeling pretty cheery, and it's supposed to be a kind of downbeat scene, or vice versa. So I just leave it for another day and I'll come back to it.
Yeah. I love that.
So chaotic. That's what I say.
In one word, it's chaotic, right?
It's chaos. Yeah.
Definitely with the both of those things I do as well, the outlining and the, not writing necessarily in a linear fashion, but those are something that are more recent changes for me, because definitely the outlining in the beginning, I was like, was not a person who outlined. I was like, oh, I'm a pantser. It just comes to me, but I kept like, especially before I had finished a manuscript, I kept starting these stories and I would write myself in a corner and then I would sit them aside until I kind of figured it out. And next thing you know, it was like 5 years later.
Right.
So finally, I figured out, okay,
it's too easy to do that.
Yeah.
It's very easy to do.
So then I started to do a little bit outlining, and I noticed the further I get into my career, the more outlining I'm doing. Like the last couple of books, I really did it straight all the way through chapter by chapter outline.
Deadlines will do that to you too.
I might not have done all those things in the end, or I might have changed some stuff. I might have mashed some chapters up together. Might have ran out of time for some stuff and word count, but the outlining helps a lot.
Yeah.
especially on those days when like you kind of feeling lost or stuck or whatever. It helps a lot to be able to say, I know what's happening in these other chapters. I'm not feeling this right now, but I
Right.
can write that. I got these other things that I can write. So a lot of times I do have chapters that are written from all over the place that
Yeah.
I have,
Yeah.
chapters. The last couple of books, like I have chapters at the end that I wrote, and I have ones in the beginning that I wrote, and I got to fill in the middle, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
so that's definitely been a thing. And like I said, for anybody who is a writer and finds themselves getting stuck or feel like they have writer's block or something, that's a great thing to try to say,
Yeah.
hey, I am stuck right here in this right now, but I know what happens down the road, so let me just write that scene.
Yeah.
Or sometimes when I especially end up doing it, is like I'll wake up and like some dialogue is just stuck in my head, or
Yes.
a scene is stuck, idea is stuck in my head. I just go ahead and try to write that scene out.
I
And
write the best dialogue right before I'm falling asleep. And
always,
sometimes I can wake up enough to write something, although it doesn't always make any sense when I when I look at it in the
always,
morning.
always, always.
But
Oh my
right
goodness.
before I go to sleep and in the shower,
Oh,
oh
I was gonna
my
say the
God,
shower or
in the
driving.
shower. And you're like, oh, and by the time you get out, it's gone. I don't know what it is. It's like a game your mind plays with you.
Yes. That's why, especially with the bedtime, now what I do is I'll pick up my phone
Mhm.
and do talk to text or whatever,
That's
and
yeah.
or either text it out, because I'm not gonna remember in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna remember.
I've started using dictation. I got the Dragon Anywhere, and
I'm
it's
glad you
it's
said that because I got
very
it too. I just haven't gotten everybody else
good.
to use it.
I
Hello, Mama
I
Tony. Thank you for joining us today, this
I've
evening.
tried it a couple times before, and it just I couldn't make it work. I couldn't work it into my process. But this last time, it seems like it's working out. And I still do a lot. Actually, I went back to handwriting a lot. It's kind of scribbles and just ideas. It's not, the whole book or anything, but
Right, right.
it helps me get started, and then the dictation can take over. And that works very
Oh,
well. Yeah.
that's a great idea because like I actually bought Dragon Anywhere, whatever, like probably I don't know 6, 7 months ago, and I keep saying I'm gonna try it, and I've had it a couple of times before, and
Yeah.
like you said, like I tried it and it just felt weird,
Yeah.
or I might have started to get a little good at it and I stopped, and then so I'm gonna give it that gives me the
I
encouragement
understand.
to try it again.
It took me 3 times. So it took me 3 times before it
And
kind
now
of
I'm
clicked.
outlining that combination of that, just like you were saying about jotting down
Yeah.
maybe the fact that I'm outlining now more
Right.
would
It's
help me
hard
to
to
do
get
it.
started in dictation. I felt like that first sentence of every chapter. I can't really do that in dictation. But if
Yeah,
I write the first like paragraph, then I'm like, okay, I'm on a roll. I can pick up dictation here, and that's fine. Now I go back and dictate the first paragraph later.
that's so
Yeah.
interesting. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing it. And we're gonna get to that in a minute too. Mama Tony said I enjoyed catching the Carlin Lake Killer. We're gonna get to that
Thank
in just a
you.
moment. Love that. Okay, so yeah, lots of different nice little tips from your
Yeah.
process, things that can try out. I just picked up something for real because I'm definitely gonna do that because like I said, that has been on my list for this year
Yeah.
to go into dictation more,
It was mine too. Yeah.
especially since I have all these deadlines and stuff. I'm like winding down on deadline hill, but
Yeah.
like I had so many books that were due, and so um
That's
I'm
my
right,
year.
I'm finishing up the last one, The Last Desire right now, and then I'm writing my next book that I have on the list, and so
Ah,
yeah, maybe that one would be a good one
yeah.
to
Yeah.
start
It does. It does help. It speeds up. My word count per day has gone up.
right.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I would love to really make that work.
Yeah.
Take a lot of pressure off me not to be able to
Right.
share quite so much.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
love that. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your series, West Investigations, and how it came to be. You told us a little bit about
Yeah.
when you started writing it and
Right.
how. So tell us a little bit about how the series came together and
So
and for anybody who is not familiar with the series, tell them a little bit
yeah.
about the series
So
as well.
The West Investigation series is about a group of brothers. They own a 4 brothers well, two of them own it, but four brothers are involved in it. A private security and investigations firm. And the first book actually just kind of came to me. I mean, I'm always thinking of stories. My mom is always like, "You've been telling stories since you could talk." So I was always a storyteller. But this one kind of just came to me, and so I started writing it. And I was like, "Oh, this is very good. I think this is good. Maybe worth seeing if somebody will publish it." But as I was writing it, as the characters will do, characters will pop up you hadn't thought about. And so I knew Ryan and Nadia, those are the main characters in that book. I knew who they were. I knew everything about them. Then all of a sudden, Ryan had a brother named Sean. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was younger, and he was kind of like annoying, even though they're in their 30s, they're in their mid-30s. But they're still kind of picked with each other. And I was like, and they're in business together. So it just kind of started forming. And I was like, oh, Sean is interesting. Like, by the time I got to the end, I said, well, I'm going to write a story for Sean because, I want to see him again. I liked him. He was fun. Yeah. And so I started writing the second book while the first one was on submission, which was great. This is a key for anyone who wants to write. Go to the second book while you're waiting for the first one to get purchased. Yeah. Because when Harlequin came to me and bought the first one, they said, well, it looks like you could have a series. The Sean character is kind of interesting. Well, no, they said Gideon, who was somebody else that popped up in the book. It's kind of interesting. And I said, yeah, I've been thinking about Gideon too, but I'm almost finished with Sean's book. So maybe you want to read that one first, and then I'll work on Gideon's book. So already we had kind of just a series right from the get-go because the characters kind of demanded my attention. So yeah, I mean, that's how they were born. And so by the end of the first book, I realized there were four brothers, which was great because I mean, at least 4 books. And then Gideon wasn't a brother, but he's like a brother. So that's 5 right there. Yes. And they kind of went like that throughout. Shielding her son, I moved to Carling Lake, which is a fictional town outside of New York. And
her son. Got it. Actually, I have all of them. Actually, so I just can't find the first 2. They're around somewhere. I think I might have loaned them somebody of them.
Yeah. Well, in that one, we meet Lance, and I was like, okay, well, great. Now we got Lance. So I was like, and Lance is cool. He needs a girl. So that's sort of how they all have come about, a character in that was necessary to the story before, was so appealing and so interesting that they get a book, Yeah. And that's sort of how each of the stories evolved. Each of the main characters evolved. And, as for the stories, I literally will start, I'll see something. I love like NCIS type stories. There's always some like interesting explosions or, some way that someone gets killed or maimed or something. And so I'll see something. I'm like, oh, that's good. They jumped off the side of a bridge and lived. Like, I'm going to incorporate that into a story. That's sort of that's how all the stories kind of get started. I'm like, okay, well, I need somebody to, jump off a bridge. I'm going to write a story around that. And that's where the story comes from. And then, you put in your trope, I haven't done friends to lovers in a while. Okay, let's do that. So that's, it evolves sort of. Some of it is based on the past and, what I haven't done in a while, what I feel like could be freshened up. And others of it is sort of wild, random things I've seen or thought about, ways to hurt people or elude the authorities, that kind of stuff. Wildness I wouldn't try in my real life, but you can try your fictional life.
You probably have a web browser that might get you in trouble with the authorities.
There's a sticker on my computer that says,
a lot of explaining to do.
Use my browser history. I'm not a serial killer. I'm a writer. I have that right on the back of my computer because I'm like, yeah, if anybody. And my husband's like, I never worry that you're gonna kill me. I'm like the safest man ever because you're gonna be the first person. If I die, you're gonna be the first person to come forward. You better have your story straight.
I hear it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Wow, yeah,
Yeah.
I love this. Like I said, I love the series. I have all the books. I'm a couple books behind at this point because I've just been, like I said, in this kind of roller coaster
It's hard
consistently
to stay up
for
unless you
months.
read less.
But
Yeah.
I do, even when I'm writing a lot, I have started to make myself I fit in some time to read. I just feel like I need that to fit
Yeah.
in some reading.
I do. I mean, I wish I was better at it. I
It's hard
used
to
to
keep up.
read a half an hour every night before going to bed, but now reading is also kind of tied up into work.
Mm,
So it feels like, oh, I'm kind of working right up until I'm going to bed. So I got to figure out
mm.
a different way to incorporate it. But I need to, what I do now is after I finish a manuscript, I will spend 5 days just like binge reading. And I'm like, that's not really the best way to do this. Because I can't remember what I read. And, because all I'm doing is like flip it really fast, trying to get through some of them. So
Yeah,
I need a better system.
because that's the thing. At the root, well, it should be all writers are readers, right? So
Yeah,
you still need to find time to
time to
read.
read. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's always a challenge if you're a busy
Yep.
writer trying to figure out where to fit that in. Um,
Absolutely.
and I want to address this question about, is it called Dragon Anywhere?
Yes. Dragon Anywhere. Dragon Anywhere is the mobile app. It's Dragon Professional or something like that. They have a bunch of dragons.
They have a bunch of dragons.
Yeah, if you go
Apple,
to the
PC.
website, you'll see
Yeah.
they got a bunch of different dragons for whatever you might want to do. Lawyers, doctors, everything. But I use just the web app. It's pretty inexpensive and works fine. It works on your phone. So I don't
Yeah.
think the app works on the computer. I've never tried it that way.
I've never tried it on a computer, but yeah, I did have, well, in the past, like in work life or whatever, I used the Dragon Anywhere on a computer, but
Yeah.
I tried it and I like the app one. Like I said, it's just a matter of me doing it.
Yeah.
Just making myself do it.
Yeah.
So and the part about having to say the punctuations and stuff, even that that's not even the problem. I don't have a problem with that because I think I got over that because one of the things I'd seen something somewhere about one of the ways to kind of ease into dictation is to practice like doing the talk to text on your phone.
Uh-huh.
And using the punctuations in that so that you become more accustomed to it. So I feel I'd say it all the time when I'm doing the text talk to text on my phone, but it's just, I don't know why. I just keep forgetting it. And I feel like I'm always in a rush and I'm always behind on deadline or whatever. So I don't feel like I don't have the time that I need for the learning curve that's required.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit of a learning curve because you have to learn the commands. And so that's the biggest thing, really. The punctuation is a little bit, periods are easy because, easy for me. But then if you're trying to use, commas I'm terrible at anyway. So I almost never have commas in my, I know my copy editors are like, come on.
It's either not enough commas or too many.
I've given up on the rules for commas. I just like whatever. That's what copy editors are for. But yeah, the punctuation can be a bit challenging for me. But it's a little bit of a learning curve, and the commands are a little different on the web on the app than on the system, the computer system one. So that one took a little bit of time to like remember, but once you get started,
you said that. I'm gonna make myself do that because I'm about to take a long car trip, and so I need to.
Good time to practice.
Yeah. I like it. We have someone on Facebook. We can't see who you are because you have to go down to the description at the bottom of the description on Facebook and and give StreamYard permission to see your Facebook profile and avatar. But thank you so much for joining us. And the comment is, I love this platform where I can learn about new authors for me. I love that too. One of the things that brings me the most joy is being able to introduce people who read me to other authors. And so that makes me super happy, especially when they come back and say that they're a fan of that author and they've been reading their books and love them. That makes me really, really happy. Okay, so I'm going to, it's some great questions here. So I'm going to tag some of them to come back to later. And then I'm going to ask you this next question. So tell us a little bit about your last release, the Catching the Carling Lake Killer. It's the 6th book in the West Investigation series. So what kind of inspired this particular story?
Yeah, so this one, I'm so proud of this one. The character, Simone, kind of has been in my head for a while. And I've been like sketching things about her and her bio and so forth. So so Lance is her love interest in this one. And he sprung up in shielding her son. And then eventually I realized, oh, Simone and Lance would be perfect together. It's almost like matchmaking, right? Like, even though characters are in your head. So people think you're like, okay, it's weird. But they're real people to me. Like, they would be perfect. I should set them up. So that's sort of how it came. And I was like, okay, well, Simone has to somehow get to Carling Lake. So that's where those two came. Because Simone existed in the back of my head long before I knew Lance existed. And I love her. She's like a strong woman who's like not really interested in a relationship anyway, but Lance is kind of cute. So she'll be all right to have like a little something, but he's not really down for that. He's decided that she's the one. So it's real interesting, like push pull, where she's like, that's all right. I'm just fine. You can get up and leave at the end of the night. I'm cool with that. We don't have to do this. So I like that, the dynamic where especially a female was sort of more hesitant to jump into the relationship, and the male was like, no, like, we're supposed to be together.
I like for him to fall first. I don't know why.
Exactly.
I didn't realize I was doing that, but I started to realize like that most of my heroines are resistant, and he kind of figures it out.
He has to woo her, right? Yeah, I mean, he had to woo her. Lance had to woo her. He had to, put in some effort for sure to get her. She's a very independent woman. So it's really great, and it's the the first serial killer one I did. So that for me at least, serial killers can go very wrong. So I was like, I want to make sure, because you don't want like everybody dropping dead every page, Like some of them are like, okay, you lose all the tension because it's just too many, and it's like I don't understand, and I wasn't connected to the people anyway, so I don't really care that the serial killer is like running, And it's a small town, so like, how many people could it be? How can you not?
Oh my God! Yes. Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there, just because that's a thing for me. Like, I watch tons of murder mysteries. We watch them all the time. That's pretty much exclusively what we watch. And so that's the thing. There's so many of them are set in these small towns, and I'm like, if you think about it, the crime rate in these towns is astronomical. Oh my God! Like.
I love like Murder, She Wrote and whatnot, but come on, man.
I love Jess, but she was a serial killer. Everywhere she went, people were dying.
It had to be Jessica. You know what I mean? There's like, it cannot be anybody else. Jessica Fletcher is the killer. There is no way that woman would not be in jail in real life.
Yeah, I love the show. I love it. Absolutely love it.
I do, but you really have to suspend the disbelief to make that work.
Horrible murder rate. Okay, first of all, and then I'm like, it's got to be her, because everywhere she go, people die.
Everywhere if I saw her coming, I would run screaming for the hills. There's no way anybody should ever be around that woman.
I know. But even some of these other ones, like Hallmark has a murders in
Aurora Teagarden.
They have a bunch of different ones.
Yeah, they do.
I saw they doing replays again of the what is it, garage sale mysteries or whatever. And so they were all. I'm just like, well, all these little towns, like all these little cute towns, but like the murder rate. Oh my God.
Yeah. I love a Murder 101 series.
Yeah, I like that one too.
I love that, but yeah, it's again a small town, a college town. Like
Yes,
who puts in their child to that college?
I
Nobody's
know.
going to that school.
Danger.
Yeah. People keep dropping dead. No,
I
no,
know it.
no.
I know it.
Yeah.
And thank you, Tanya, for letting us know that it's you. And thank you for so much for joining us here this evening. So,
I Tanya.
yeah. And on the Carling Lake book, Uzu said the opening was so good. I just started it.
Oh,
I love
thank
it.
you.
And then Mickey, hey Mickey, you said you were going to join us, and you are here. Thank you so much for joining us. I like it when the man falls first
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I love that. Just love it. Just love it.
Yeah.
Okay. And let me see. Ooh, Uzu says men falling first is so adorable to me, especially when the love interest has no
No
clue.
clue.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know how these small towns survive either with
Yeah.
all the bodies dropping, right? It's crazy.
Right.
Mama Tony says crazy things happen in small towns. I live in one.
Well, that's true. That's true, but hopefully not so many dead bodies. Like there is a lot going on in small town. I know a lot of people is like, oh, they're sleepy and whatnot. My grandmother's from a small town. I've never seen so much juicy gossip and people doing all kinds of stuff. But I mean, I feel they don't have as much going on as maybe in a city, so they got to make their fun, you know.
That right there.
There's always stuff happening. But I sincerely hope it's not all them dead bodies hurt.
I know it.
Yeah.
So you write mostly romantic thrillers, and they have two. So that has two parts to it. There's the romance, and then there's the thrills that you have to do. So how do you kind of make sure that you keep a good balance of both as you're writing your stories?
Yeah, I mean that comes back to the outline. So I actually outline separately. I'll do the mystery thriller outline, and then I'll come back and I'll do the romance outline. I kind of know what I want to do with the romance before I do it, but then I'll nail down exactly like where each scene is going to be and kind of entwine the romance with the mystery. Because I mean that's kind of how the characters come together, is through that mystery, whatever's happening. So that's that's the foundation of it. And then while they're doing that, they fall in love. So yeah. I gotta know what they're doing while they fall in love in order to make it work together. Yeah.
I love your voice and your characters. So I mean, and that's a good tip right there. That because I realize that there is the arc of the mystery, and then the romance has an arc. So right. I thought for me it's interesting to hear that you write them separately, right? Instead of making them one big pot bowl of soup. You actually go and do the first one, which is most important in intrigue, especially. Yeah. Because Denise and Wheatley was on last week, and we were talking about kind of the difference between Harlequin intrigue and the romantic suspense line.
Yeah.
So with the romantic suspense line, for anybody who wasn't with us last show, with the romantic suspense line, that one's like 70% romance, 30% whatever the mystery is. Where intrigue that KD writes for is the opposite. It's 70% the story, the whatever the mystery is, and like more like 30% of the romance. Yeah. So it makes sense that you would write that first. That alone makes it less intimidating for me, because that actually is one of the things that I would like to do. One is to write a romantic thriller. Like I said, I got a series I've been sitting on for going on like six years.
Do it! I can't wait.
But it seems so intimidating, even though I watch the shows all the time, even though like I'm telling you, like some of these shows, the minute the killer appeared, I'm like, she did it.
Yeah.
And my husband's like, you don't know who did it. I'm like, she did it. I'm telling you, she did it. And then he was like, why you always gonna ruin it?
They haven't twisted the trope enough. I mean, that's really all it is, right? They haven't kind of hidden the trope enough so that you don't know. You've seen it. Yeah. You've seen it again. And the reality is, like, everything, I believe at least, like everything's really been written before. Like nothing
Absolutely.
is completely
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
totally original. So if you've read enough, if the writer hasn't kind of thrown enough red herrings in there and made the characters unique enough and freshened up whatever that story is or that main plot line is enough, then you're gonna figure it out.
Right.
And sometimes that's okay. I mean, there are whole books that are written where you know from page one who the killer is, and you still read to the end because it's like
Absolutely.
that good. So,
Right.
I mean, it depends how you do it, you know.
Agreed. And part of that too is just because I've watched so many of them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
At this point, like I said, that is our primary thing that we watch.
Yeah, me too.
Is murder mysteries and stuff. So I've been watching them for more than 30 years. Yes, I said that.
Yeah.
So you're gonna kind of like figure some stuff out. So
Yeah.
but given how many I've watched, I am surprised that I haven't
I'm
tried to write one
sure
before.
you can do it. I've read your books. I know you can do it. You can do
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. I needed that because I was like, it just seems so scary and intimidating. You know what I'm saying?
Just keep them.
So
I do
that
them
makes it feel better.
separately. Just do them separate. I think that's the way to do it. So you can see your arc. Like, you know, you can. It's very clear what your two arcs, and then you can bring them together like a bridge. You know,
Yeah.
arcs
Oh, I like
like
that.
a bridge,
See,
right?
you're
You bring
just
them
dropping
together.
all kind of pearls of wisdom. We got the bridge. We got the separate arcs. Oh my god. Okay,
Right.
thanks. Separate arcs. I'm literally writing notes right now. Okay. All right. I love that. Thank you
You're
so much for sharing that.
welcome.
And Tanya got figured out how to do the thing. So we can see you in your
Hi,
name. So
Tanya.
hey Tanya, thanks. And Angela's joining us as well. Hey
Hi,
Angela.
Angela.
Angela from Angela Anderson Presents. So she says exciting. I like a good suspense with romantic elements for sure. So so we got some great questions. We're gonna get into those in just a minute. As a matter of fact, we're gonna address the questions first before we do the recommended list. That's what I want to do. So let me go back and make sure see if I'm not missing anybody. Okay, so Veronica asks, how do you select the names of your characters?
That is an excellent question. So the first few names of my characters came from the list of girl names from when I was pregnant. I had two boys, so I didn't get to use any of my girl names. So I just named my characters that way. So that's what. But now I'm running out of girl names. So I pay attention when I hear a name that I like, somebody's name on the street, or on the television. I write it down. I have like a list of names that I really liked, and I'll pick one. You know, as I'm writing, I'm like, okay, she feels like an Alexis. Yeah, I think so. You know, and then it might change throughout. So sometimes I think it maybe is an Alexis, and no, she's a Nadine or something. You know, by the end, I usually know who they are, but at the beginning, not so much. And in the beginning, I'll use like random names anyway. I'll be like Jane and John. I don't care. I'll just pick any old thing at the beginning until I get to know them very well, and then I'll pick a name. But there's no real science to it or anything.
Yeah.
Just same way you name your kids, right?
Right.
Same way.
I mean, I am huge into using the baby list and stuff, and especially I try to be as specific about it as possible. So if I'm writing Southern characters, most of my characters live in small Southern towns. I try to go with Southern baby name lists. Not that everybody has to have a Southern feeling name, but I try to go with that. Or if I'm writing like a rancher, like I'm doing now, whatever, I look for like rancher baby names or cowboy.
No, that makes sense. I do that for a time period. I haven't really. I'm set in New York and West, but I'll have characters. You know, maybe they're supposed to be 60, so I can't be like Aiden. I mean, was not a popular name for a 60-year-old. So then I'll go back and be like, what was popular, 60 years ago? So I definitely do that. Or if I say they're from France, well, then you can't be Bob. That doesn't make sense. So I'll go look at what's a popular French name, and I'm very careful. I like I try to put a lot of diversity in my stories. So I do with last names in particular. I'll go back and be like, okay, well, I haven't done a Polish last name, or I haven't done, so I'll try to find Arabic. I'll try to go through and see, well, who's a popular, Arabic, Polish or Muslim entertainer. So I'll go look through the list, and I might pick one of their last names,
I like
to give to the character. So, yeah, I do a little bit more work for some of the characters, especially if I say that they are a specific ethnicity or they're from a specific place or a very specific age. I try to make sure the names match up.
That is important. I mean, not to say that they couldn't have a name like that,
Yeah.
but if, for instance, like Jaden,
Right.
we know where that comes from, Will Smith's kid. Like, and it just kind of explodes there. Not that there weren't any Jadens in the world before that, there probably were, but it became a much more popular name from that period forward. So, yeah, it makes sense to kind of think about things like that.
And sometimes you want like Bob to be from France because they like in the story, you're like, okay, well, why is it Bob from France? What's the story behind that?
Right,
yeah, it might be like part of the story.
Yes. So it's kind of like that thing about if you see a gun, it better go off at some point,
right.
And that's another thing that like I kind of have learned to pick up, like when I'm watching a TV show. So when I'm watching a TV show, mystery or whatever, and they focus in on any item, I'm like, that item's gonna be important.
They do that.
They wouldn't waste the entire shot on it if
I was just watching Monk, which is one of my like all-time favorite shows, right? And they did. It was so glaringly obvious. There was no reason for the camera to pan over. It was like a ficus or something. No, it wasn't Monk. It was Murder, She Wrote, and the murder weapon was hidden under the ficus. They just panned to the ficus, and then they came back, and I was just like, "What? Why?
Yeah.
Why did you do that? Except to tell me that's where the murder weapon is."
Yes,
it's way too obvious. Have somebody walk over there.
I know, make it subtle.
It just shot up a ficus. Okay.
So another question is, do you hide any secrets in your books that only a few people will find, like Easter eggs?
Not really. I mean, I hide red herrings and little clues to let you know, maybe you think somebody's dead, but they're not. I'll do that, but and I'm hoping you don't notice them, until you get to the end. You're like, oh, that's, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, yeah.
But for people who maybe know me or something, no. One of the things I'm so worried about, like I don't use names of people with the exception of Michael, because like there's a bazillion Michaels in the world. I don't use names of people that I know. Mm-hmm. So I shy, I'm so worried that like one of my friends will be like, I know this is about me. I know that character. In Pursuit of the Truth, he had a brother of the main character who was shady. And I called my brother and I was just like, this is not you. It has nothing to do with us. I'm just because he's a brother. And he's like, I don't care. But I just want to be clear. I don't have like any latent like hostility towards you or anything.
See, you're so super nice. You're like, you're like proactively worried.
I know. He's like, you're crazy. I don't know why. I'm not sitting around worried about your latent hostility towards me. You're pretty hostile when you want to be anyway.
That's funny. Oh my goodness. Okay, and then Tanya had a question. Here it is. Does your mystery and suspense thrillers come from your background as an attorney? That's an excellent question.
Yeah, no. No, they don't. I was a corporate attorney. I pushed papers. I didn't do criminal defense or anything. So it would not have been exciting to write a story around, somebody's loan contract. So no, they really have nothing to do. But I will say that having been a lawyer helps in the research purposes for crimes and such. I kind of know where to go to find out how long, the prison sentence for this crime will be, and that sort of stuff. If I'm, I know a few police officers and that kind I can tap into. So that all helps. One of the upcoming West brothers books, Brandon West, is a attorney, so it helps. It's easier to write his character because I was like, I know where he's coming from. I know what he would have had to do, and when you talk about getting your law license and that kind of stuff. So that and that way it incorporates. And I know when the guys at the West Investigations are breaking the law, right, which is part of the reason I went with a private investigations firm, because initially I thought Ryan West, the main character in the first West, would be a police officer, but that was actually kind of hard to write him as a police officer because I kept running into like, but it wouldn't happen like this, and it would take 3 days to get the warrant, and like you can't write where they're just like twiddling their thumbs for 3 days, that's not interesting, and I couldn't get out of the mindset, of like knowing that they were breaking the law and this is wrong, and I don't want to write police officers breaking the law, you know. And so finally,
that's an excellent point.
Yeah,
because like one of the shows I watch is the new version of Magnum PI, and so they say that all the time about how like the stuff they're doing they can do things that they're they don't mind breaking the law.
Exactly. That's why I went with the PI, because I was like, well, they don't have the same rules, right? I mean, it might just be breaking an entry, but it'd be just like you or I breaking and somebody's house. Yeah. So and people do that. So it was easier to kind of to ignore the rules there, and the one thing I think that maybe other non-lawyer writers don't do that I do. I will go to the DOJ's press release website to look for crimes to base my stories on. Right? Okay. Like, that's a good.
Okay. We're not gonna just pretend like you didn't just say what you just said.
An excellent.
That's huge.
Yeah. An excellent. People are wild, y'all. If you want good stories.
Okay, so for anybody,
yes,
who is trying to like write mysteries or whatever. Say that again now.
Go to the DOJ's website. They have press releases up there. They don't have all their cases, but they have enough. And the crazy stuff that people get themselves into, that there are plenty of, you'll never run out of story ideas by just reading their press releases and the crazy things that people have done.
Wow.
And I have picked up a couple stories there where, people just wild stuff,
I love it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a good source. You could probably you could probably do the same thing for your state DA too. I haven't done it, but go to the website and just read the crimes people have gotten into.
That's wild. Just like, because I watch 911 on the Fox show, not like actual 911 and stuff. But whenever and they have the wildest things that happen, and I always say to my husband, "I bet you this happened in real life. I bet you it happened in real life. I bet you that's where they got the idea for something this wild to happen. That actually happened in real life."
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. So, okay, let me unmark. Okay, I'll mark that one already. Okay, so Mama Tony said, "I changed my mind about the killer several times. We love that. I love as a mystery reader, a mystery watcher or reader, when I'm completely shocked by who it was." I'm going to talk about when we do our recs about the book I was listening to. But yeah, it really surprised me. Like it came out, I was like, that. I had a whole list of maybes, and that person wasn't even on
the list. Oh, that's fabulous. I love it when that happens. But in Calling Lake Killer, I actually changed at the end who I thought the killer was. I wrote the whole book thinking it was this one guy or person. And then I got to the end, and it was like, it's obviously not that guy. It's another person. It was so obvious to me that it should have been somebody else. So, and it worked. And I didn't have to change anything. That's the funny thing. Because I was like, in the back of your mind, you knew it wasn't that person. That was a red herring. That was a good red herring. You tricked yourself.
That is so interesting, because I was just talking to a writer friend today, and she is writing a story that has a surprise, has a suspense component.
Yeah.
And she's near the end of the book, and she's like, I'm still not sure if it's this person is. I'm like, wait a minute, you don't know what it is. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
That probably happens quite frequently, or maybe you
Not
like you
to
said,
me. Usually I know.
and that's what she did. She, I thought it was going to be this person the whole
Yeah.
time, but guess what? It's not. It's this person.
That's how you know it's really good, right? I mean,
Yeah.
even when you're yourself, you're like, wow, it could be like so many different people. Who should it be? Then it's really good. Usually I know who it is before, even like when I sit down to write. I'm pretty sure who it is who did it.
Yeah.
But this one surprised me. This one snuck up on me because I was not in my head at all that it was going to be this person. And then
I love it.
It was the last scene when they like jump out of the shadows. It's like, oh, that's not what that was going to be.
And I'll thank y'all for the encouragement too. Veronica said you could do it, and so did Angela. So I'm gonna keep that in mind when things slow down a little bit, and I can finally kind of shift my attention to some of those things that I've been thinking about for a long time. So, we were talking about the names before. Uzu said I used to look at my family reunion, family tree charts for Southern names if I needed a good pick. And I know for me personally, I actually keep a running list. So like when I run into names that I like, or like you were saying, I keep a list of them and first names and surnames. And then I try to make sure I mark them off so that I'm not using the same names again.
So you don't reuse them.
Mm-hmm. And Angela said about the idea about the DOJ website. That's an exciting way to get storylines. Love it.
Yeah.
And yes, I agree. I love the moments you didn't see coming. Yeah. So yeah.
It's fun as a reader and a writer.
Yeah. Mama Tony sounds a little upset with James and shielding herself.
Everybody tells me that. Everybody is like, I don't like that he lied. I don't like it. I'm sorry.
I totally get that because I mean, it's still people who still mad at Savannah. It's from Savannah Secrets. the Murder Brother series, they still mad at her.
Yeah. Sorry. I don't like that he lied either. But, people do lie. They get themselves in situations. What I did like is that Erica didn't just lay down and take it. I love that she was like, oh no, you're going to have to pay for that one. I might be in love with you, but we're going to have a chat.
That was such a good book. I love that book. I mean, I've loved all of your books, and it just, like I said, I love your voice. I love the characters. I love the way you handle the storylines, and then kind of watching the characters grow together and stuff. I just love it. So okay, so we're talking about I just told you, I'm telling y'all, the author a Black author who writes Black characters in romantic suspense that I love, and that's Katie Richards. And then last week, Denise and Wheatley. But now we're gonna ask Katie, as a Black writer who writes romantic thrillers with Black characters, which is something you don't see enough. I would love to see more of.
Do not. Oh, me too.
So give us a list of some other authors of color, and they don't necessarily have to be Black, just authors of color who write romantic thrillers or romantic suspense with characters of those same color that they are. Because we have some who have been writing for a long time, maybe who have been writing, but they don't necessarily write characters of color. They might write characters. So we want to build on our list. So Denise gave us a bunch last week, so let's hear your list of recommendations.
All right. Well, Denise is on my list, so that's one right there. Arbari Flowers is another great one. He writes a series based in Hawaii, so that one's great because you almost feel like you're on vacation if you went for all the people dying and whatnot. But if you can get around that, the way he sets a scene is beautiful. Then there's Jacqueline Thomas. She writes in the Love Inspired, but she's also going to be writing in Intrigue very soon. So
Oh,
keep your eye out for
nice. This
her
is
this
where Love
year.
Inspired. I did not. I think I do remember an announcement about her writing.
Yeah,
That
I
is
think it's coming
exciting.
out sometime in the end of this year. So keep your eye out for her. She's
That's
fabulous.
exciting. And the first one you said when you said
Bari Flowers. He's actually a black man. One of the, I think he might be the only one black male still writing an intrigue line. I don't know of another.
I did see. I think I saw him on Twitter.
Yeah,
I think I connected with him on
he's
Twitter.
great. He has like I said, the Hawaii a series set in Hawaii, and they're fabulous books. Juno Rushdan, I love her, but they're so fast paced. There's so much action. I love those books. I love those books.
Not all of Juno's have black characters, but I think this one might be the characters.
Yeah, there are mix. Hers are a mix.
Yes.
So some of them are. Well, all of them have black characters. I don't think I've read one that didn't have black characters.
Okay.
Sometimes there's like one main character is black, one's white, one's Asian. You know, there's a whole. It's very diverse. Hers are very diverse.
Okay, got it.
And
you mentioned Denise already, and I didn't.
I mentioned Denise
last week when Denise was here. I couldn't remember what I did with her book. Now that she's not here,
you found that. She's great. And then there's Deborah Fletcher Mello and Sharon Cooper in the I think Deborah Fletcher Mello writes in intrigue as well, but Sharon Cooper I think just writes in
I think they're both romantic suspense. They both write romantic suspense.
They both write in romantic suspense, but I think I've seen a few. I don't know if Deborah does a whole bunch of them in intrigue, but she has at least one in intrigue.
Oh yeah, is it one of the continuity ones? I think
it might be. Maybe that's why.
I think I do remember that. That's right.
Yeah, maybe that's why it's not so many. But they're great. I mean, of course, everybody knows that. And they're
she's been a fantastic author for years.
Wonderful books.
It's no different.
Wonderful books.
With the romantic suspense. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So there are a bunch coming up. It's one but I think that's in the Desire line. Desire is so diverse. I read so much of those, but I don't think she writes an intrigue, so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Tanya says, I'm definitely purchasing one tonight. Yeah. And yes, we love Jacqueline Thomas.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm so excited for her her intrigue books. Yeah.
Mama Tony said, Barbary Flowers. And I'm sorry.
Oh, is that I think she means Denise Whitley.
Okay.
I was gonna say I don't know that one.
And then Jacqueline Thomas.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're all great.
And then the names of our flowers.
Angel O'Malley, the Big Alligator. I have
love them.
And then Chasing the Violent Kill. So I have here this one's great. If you haven't picked that one up.
Awesome. And I just finished listening to Kelly Garrett's Hollywood Ending. The first one was called Hollywood Homicide, I think.
Yeah, Hollywood Homicide,
Hollywood Ending in that series. And I listened to them both on audio because a lot of times if you don't already get emails or have signed up for emails for church, just like if you are signed up for emails for BookBub or BookBub, you can select the categories that you're interested in, and BookBub will send you deals on those books. Some of them are free, some of them are 99 cents, $2.99, whatever. And so Chirp does the same thing with audiobooks. And so that's actually how I got both of Kelly's books was through Chirp. And I finished listening to Hollywood Ending.
They're great.
A couple days ago, and it totally surprised me on Who the Murderer. I was like, what?
And they're so funny. They're so
I was so mad at myself.
I've read them both.
They are freaking hilarious. Like the whole time I'm listening to it, especially if I'm like listening to it, my headset's on, and I'm like guffawing, laughing. And my husband's like, nothing is that funny. I'm like, yes, it is that funny. It's that funny.
I wasn't a full-time writer when Hollywood Homicide came out, the first one. So I was still riding the train to work. and I would be like busting out at 7 a.m. in the morning. I like tried not to, but it was so funny. And I know everybody was like, "What is wrong with this woman?" She's really great. She's actually a friend. She's a wonderful author, and she has a thriller out. It's Like a Sister.
Yes.
That's also very good. There are
Yeah.
tons. They're not it's not a romantic suspense. It's just a thriller. But there are really a lot of up and coming thriller writers, people of color.
Okay, so let's stop right there. Let's define the difference between suspense, romantic suspense, and a thriller.
Okay.
How would you define them?
Well, two? A thriller does not have to have romance in it at all, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have some. But a romantic suspense or romantic thriller, if it has romantic in it in the title, is going to have a significant component that's a romance. So an arc, a romantic arc. People start off in one place and then they end at some other place. In a thriller, I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be that they end up together. I could think of what is the name of this? It says Christina McDonald wrote a book, and I can't remember the name of the book. I would consider it a romantic thriller, though. But unlike a Harlequin line or intrigue line, the parties do not end up together at the end. But I would still consider it a thriller because there's a significant component where these people are kind of dealing with their romantic relationship throughout the book. In addition to, there's this big suspense element, a mystery going on that they're also dealing with.
Yeah.
So that's that's basically how significant is the romance, and usually if it says romance in it, there's going to be a significant. Or if they drop the romance off and they just call it a thriller, you might get a little bit of romance, but it's probably not a romantic thriller, romantic suspense.
Okay. And Mama Tony said, I read all the authors you named. That's excellent. Yeah. She's ahead of the game. Well, that's not surprising to me that Mama Tony's ahead of the game. but Angela also says Hi by Tracy Clark is a crime thriller that's really good. So that's another thing. If you all, as the viewers, have recs that you want to drop into the comments or whatever, feel free to do that. If you want to rec a book that you've read yourself, or just the author maybe that we didn't mention that writes romantic suspense or when you write suspense or thrillers, period. And then something else that just for anybody else who might also be interested in one day writing romance or writing suspense or writing thrillers, tell us a little bit about Crime Writers of Color.
Yeah. So Crime Writers of Color is a great organization. It's really just a group of crime writers who are dedicated to helping each other and supporting each other, answering each other's questions and giving each other advice and just being there through all the trials of, finding an agent and getting published and selling a book and marketing and all the stuff that go along with this business. And then throw on top of that sort of the unique issues that we face as writers of color or people of color in the world in general, but especially in this industry, which hasn't really been terribly supportive until recently. It's gotten better, but we still have a long way to go. So if you are a writer of color, or even if you are not, go to the website, check it out. You can find lots of authors, romantic suspense, as well as not crime writers, thrillers in general up there, and you might find some new writers that interest you.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. Like, even if you're, like you said, you're not looking to join the organization for the support and knowledge, it's a good place to go and find authors of color who write romance or write thrillers and write
romance.
Yeah. So that with that group especially, it doesn't have to be romance necessarily, but just thrillers and and
It's
some
yeah, it's
creatures and things like
primarily not. So I'll say if
that.
I'll
Right.
say that it's
Yes.
primarily not romantic suspense, but it's more mystery, traditional mysteries, thrillers, that sort of thing. But romantic suspense is included. So
Yes.
there are some.
Yes. And Tanya's question, I actually was thinking the same thing, Tanya, because I know that I don't know if it's out yet or I don't think it is out yet. It's like something with Westminster Abbey or something that Vanessa Riley has as a
It's going to
book.
be a mystery.
Yeah, she has a mystery. So, as a matter of fact, she
Ooh.
joined Crime Writers of Color. so,
Oh, I didn't
so
know
she
that.
does have a mystery come out. It's a historical mystery, I believe. But I'm assuming because pretty much, as far as I know, at least one character of all of her books is black. So
Okay.
it probably I would imagine what that book it is too. But I don't know if it's out yet or
I'm gonna
not.
keep an
But
eye
definitely.
out. I haven't seen it. I think we're up to 300 or 400 members in Crime Writers College. So I
Oh
don't know them
wow,
all yet.
I'm a
I don't know them
lurker.
all anymore.
Like
Um,
I never talk because I don't actually have a crime book out or whatever. So but I'm always lurking in the background. So yes, and that's right. It's a Victorian story.
okay.
The one for Vanessa. Thank you so much, Merle.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
I'm gonna keep an eye out. I hadn't heard, but I'll definitely look
Yeah,
it up.
and
Another book
Angela,
for my to be read. The
yes.
Violin Conspiracy. I love I haven't read it yet. I bought it, but I'm going to read that book.
Okay, I have this is
So
actually for my first time hearing it, I think. The Violin Conspiracy by Brendan Slocum is really good as well.
yeah.
It was his debut novel and GMA Book Club pick of February 2022. And the second novel releases this month. So thank
Oh,
you for
I
those
gotta catch
recs.
up. He's already on his second novel. I haven't read the first one. I pretty much read anything that is a mystery that has violins in it because I played violin. I should say played. I don't think I touched that violin in a year. But up until last year, I played the violin. Not
Wow.
not
I
well.
always
I
wanted
loved
to
it.
play the violin. I got the viola as a kid and I sucked at it.
Oh,
and didn't do it for very long.
I played the piano. I played the
but
piano
I
for 7
love the
years.
violin.
Me
Definitely
too.
it's my favorite instrument for sure.
When I was a kid, I played the piano because my mom wanted me to play the piano. And we had a piano. But I wanted to play the violin, and she was like, "No, we have a piano, so you're gonna you're gonna play the piano." And so
Your parents are very practical.
yes, exactly. So periodically, I would harass her, as an adult, and go, "I could, be a famous violinist if you had let me play the violin." And I think I was like 37, 36, 37, and finally she's just like, "You're 37. Go learn to play the violin if you want to play the violin and stop bothering me." I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess I could." So
So
I
you
went.
started
I,
learning
le-
when the
I
play
started. I was like 37.
Oh, that is so
Yeah.
exciting. That's awesome.
And I was a little hesitant, I was like, I'm old. I mean, obviously I'm never gonna, play Carnegie Hall or whatever. So. But my violin teacher was like, I have tons of adult students. It's fine,
Because that's
lots
when
of
you have
people
the
are like
time,
you.
right?
Yeah,
You have
like
the time and the
exactly. She's like,
money.
lots of people
That's
were
crazy.
like you that, violins are expensive. They couldn't afford it when they were kids, and now they can. So yeah.
That is
I play and I keep going. I gotta go back. I gotta go back. But I have so many deadlines now. It's hard.
yeah.
Yeah. And I'm
Oh my
afraid of what I
gosh.
sound like when I've picked up that violin again.
That's exciting. That's exciting. And also Angela gave us an update on the
Okay.
Vanessa Riley book we were talking about is Murder on
Murder on
Westminster.
Westminster. Okay.
It is a historical mystery and it's already out. The second one comes out
Oh,
soon. And she says you'll love it. It's a page turner.
I'm sure.
I love it. Okay,
Yeah.
very, very,
Vanessa
very good.
Riley's a great
Okay,
author.
and thank you so much for joining us, Readeropolis. Thanks so much. And thank you everybody for joining us tonight, including Katie. Please tell us what is next for you.
So more West Investigations books, of course. I need to get started on book 10, actually.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you know how the production schedules are. A lot of get
I
done and
do.
then they
I
come out.
do.
So number 6 just published, but number 10 needs to get a move on.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So there'll be at least 12 West Investigations. So
Oh
got
my
a couple
God.
more
That's
to
awesome.
work on. And then I am working on a standalone thriller that hopefully, will get out there soon. It's hard to kind of fit it all in, but
Yeah, yeah. Oh
to
my
find the
God, that's
time.
awesome.
Yeah.
That is exciting. And for anybody who is new to KD, don't be intimidated by the fact that there's 6 books already. They're all standalone
Yes.
books. You can read them in any
Yes.
order or whatever. I mean, yes, I recommend reading them in order if you can, but you don't have to. You can read them in whatever order, and they're fantastic. And
Yeah,
you can
absolutely.
thank me later. Um, so that's great. Okay, and Vanessa's second book is Murder on Drury Lane, and that drops
October.
in October. So
Okay.
that's good to know.
Gives me a few
So
months to read the first one.
yeah, I love it. So Tanya says it's been fun. Thank you. Angela said great chat. Thank you so
Thank
much for y'all for
you.
joining us. We appreciate you so much. And that's all right, newbie. We love you. Thank you for joining us. So I'm excited. So tell readers where they can connect with you online.
Yeah, I am on Instagram at KD Richards Author, and Facebook, same, KD Richards Author. So you can find me there. And yeah, I love to engage with readers on either place. So
And you have been such a fun chat tonight, so I had no idea it had gone this long. We're an hour and 20 minutes in. I'm so sorry.
no, it was so much fun. I
It's been such a fun
enjoyed
chat,
it.
and y'all have had such great questions. So thank you all for joining us. If you didn't already, please like the show. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And by all means, share the show so that on your social media accounts and stuff, so that other people can find the chat as well. It's been so informative for me. And like I said, it's fun for me because you are one of my favorite faves. So, it was great to get a chance to talk to you. So thank
Thanks
you all for
having me
joining us.
on.
And in the description, you will find the link to Katie's website as well as her Amazon page. So you can easily go and find all the West Investigation books as well as her, thriller or whatever. So that's great. Thank you so much for being here, all of you, tonight. I hope you'll join us next episode. It's going to be Miss Shirley Halestock, the romance legend, is going to be joining us on the 18th. So please come back and join us then. And again, make sure you like the show or subscribe and share. And we will see you next time. Happy reading.